So I am the Senior Community Development Officer at Townsville City Council. I have been working at council within a communities role for 11 and a half years this year. So it either A means there's something mentally wrong with me, or I really, really like my work. So today we're going to be talking about partnering for change, what that looks like. I've only got 15 minutes, so if anyone knows me, this is going to be a tight squeeze because I do love a dialogue and sharing stories. All right, so I've popped that quote up there. I just want to provide a little bit of context around local governments. And, you know, local governments quite often in the front line of your newspapers, your local ones. I know we are at the moment, which many of you have probably heard. But I really think that this quote rings true. People don't generally go to a town because of roads, rubbish and rates. And they don't stay there because of that. I can tell you that right now. What they will stay there for is quality of life, belonging, and to develop some self-actualisation among place and space with their community. And it's precisely the deeper connection to place and people that underscore why I believe local government, and I truly believe this, can hold one of the most unique and challenging positions in the government hierarchy that we have in Australia. We are the closest tier to the people. Most local governments, research shows, we deliver over 140 services across the various LGAs in the nation. We don't get to distance ourselves, we are in the people. So we are where policy meets the people, or should I say, quite often it actually collides. And it does. So policy meets emotions. What we meet is rules, budgets, regulations. I clash with this every day in my role of a CD officer, with the lived realities of people and then advocating for them up through into our local government. It collides in our spaces, whether it's cemeteries, libraries, neighbourhood centres, sporting fields, and it actually lands on our desks urgently. But a lot of the work we take to get approvals, as many of you know, if you're working with local government, it's not quick. It takes a long time, and especially if you've got a good advocate, stay with them on the journey in that space. But what are local governments, what do Australians think, what do we want from our local governments? Well, the most recent research, 93% want local councils to advocate for local needs and reflect their local values. 91% want councils to deliver services that contribute to healthier, fairer societies. Many people, some say councils go beyond their remit. I actually don't personally believe that. I actually think many councils actually are trying to do what their community wants them to do, which is, this is why they pick up so many different services. And services don't make the council, but I think I'm going to come to that bit a bit later on. So if Australians want their councils to reflect values, there's an element of delivery of wellbeing and holding space for life's biggest human experiences, one of those being death and grief. The question becomes, what does that look like in practice? And I'm hoping to show you today. Okay, so grief lives in every single postcode, and so should care. I don't know if many of you know, but in Queensland, most local governments are the trustee by the state for their cemetery spaces. Not all of them, but most of them. So in Townsville, we are the custodian of 98% of our cemeteries. There's one on the island which has no burials, but it is under a state lease with a local not-for-profit community organisation. So under the Queensland Legislation Land Act, our role is to define in very procedural terms. So we're responsible for body disposal. That's what it says in the legislation. So that's burial, cremation, reburial. But legislation, I believe, and something I've been advocating for 8 years, sets a minimum standard. So when I first started working in this space, our cemetery was like many others. Undigitised records, flipping through A4. We've got 37,000 burials in our Belgian Garden Cemetery. Let me tell you, that is quite an intense level of stress when you're booking someone in for a burial. It was utilitarian, and frankly, we had a very high volume of complaints. Honestly, we actually had a full complaints register in our file and drive. It wasn't great when you're on the receiving end of, like I said, emotions collide when policy doesn't meet what community needs. So grief, but just through observing, because I was a CDO when I was in that space, as well as doing birds in schools and all sorts of other things. One of the things I learnt was observing, listening, talking less, listening more, which is hard for me, and sitting on my hands. I call it sitting on my hands. I came to realise several things. Grief is not just personal, it's civic. So cemeteries are an emotional landscape, not just operational sites. This doesn't come to me overnight either. This has taken years of me thinking and pondering and in frustration and joy. And they hold memory, they hold culture, they hold connection. Staff, grave diggers, cemetery admin staff wellbeing means community wellbeing. So our cemetery team was absorbing, as was I, daily grief, daily frustration, daily anger, daily annoyance, daily joy too, but often without recognition or support or acknowledgement of the depth of what they do working in that space. People just think a grave gets dug. It doesn't. It's very, very technical. It's a technical skill set. I would not like to be asked to dig a 6-foot grave with right-angled. Yeah, that would be a hexagon for me, I can tell you that right now. Complaints are often expressed, and really what I realised is our complaints register was a register of community unmet needs. So this is where we were not meeting our community needs and what community expected from us as a local government. And that's a tough pill to swallow because I'm in that team delivering that particular work. And anyone who knows me knows I do like things to be a certain way, so I'm a bit of a perfectionist within myself. If I get something wrong, don't worry, I've already beaten myself up a lot before you can even get to me. And so they weren't just frustrated with the signage. They were frustrated because they couldn't find their loved one. They were grieving, they were seeking dignity, and they wanted to feel seen. They wanted to feel heard. And they wanted you to show action beyond that, not just words, not just writing. Anyone can write anything they want and you can say whatever you want, but unless you've got action behind it, people soon lose faith and they won't follow you to where you need to be. Community development, what I've realised is the transformation that compassionate communities, which I think we've heard a couple of speakers speak of, as a practice, but it is also a tertiary-based discipline. Yes, you can do it on the ground, but it is a qualification. So, and I'm very proud to say I was a mature age student and got my degree from Murdoch at only 2 years ago, was qualified. And it can transform operational spaces within a Townsville City Council, within our council, but within other councils as well. There's a bigger conversation about CD in local governments, but I'm not going to talk about that here today. By applying the relational lens within the work of community development and with our cemetery team, you actually can move from transactional service delivery minimum standard to relational transformational work. And I believe legislation sets the floor, but it doesn't define a ceiling. So you can do more. It's just about having the right mindset and the right people around you and not being impatient with the change. Be patient, because when I'm talking about this is a 15-minute slide, but this work has taken me, I think I'm going into my 9th year of compassionate communities this year in Townsville City Council. All right, so I've created this because it's actually helped me understand when I'm thinking about a cemetery, what are the intersectionalities of a cemetery. So this is not, what I'm going to show you today, please don't take this as this is gospel or it's all right. It's not. This is me from my learned community development practice within the space and the context of local government. So my understanding of what a cemetery is and the deep intersectionality of this, they are history, they are heritage, they are culture, they intersect with ecology, both environmental and social. They hold memory and they hold care. They aren't hierarchical and they're not sequential. They coexist and they help define the deeper meaning and function of a cemetery beyond their regulatory role in a legislation piece. They're not just regulated. They're repositories of history and heritage. They are continuity of place. They're stories of ancestry and the inheritance that we carry forward. The memories, they hold lives, they hold love, they hold loss. and they are often green refuges in the middle of prime real estate, which is great. So try and hang on to them. Try to band together, or don't let people redevelop them, because you can always have another building, but you will never get back those green spaces to have that moment of peace and quiet and serenity. So it means a lot to me. And I put that little quote there because I found that really beautiful. So when I was studying, I did a story on the cemeteries for one of my assessment pieces, and I found that, and I just thought that was a beautiful historic quote around a sleeping place, which I just thought was really, really nice to think of it that way. So how do we as a local government and society honour the layers? How do I help honour the layers and contribute to that? Well, let's have a look. Oh yes, this is exciting. Forgot I did this. Good job, old self. So one of the things that I've done, so I had to really think. So for this slide, I wanted to do Samar proud and John proud, and I wanted to really, from a local government perspective and context, show you a bit of a system framework around how I do, because I'm going to show you some pictures of the work that we do in local government up there, but how I do what I do in a highly regulated, Samar was talking about it before, risk managed, and local government's getting extremely risk averse context. It's challenging, and sometimes I swear a lot. Basically, we've got community. I see community as co-creators and partners. The council as the cemetery team or cemetery technicians, they're our service providers. This is where most local governments sit in, that section there. And then on the left, you've got council as an enabler. So council actually plays two roles in compassionate communities. To do it really well, I believe you need council as the service provision and council as an enabler, which is your community development practitioners within a council, basically. And then if all of those are working together really well and you're holding space, like I said, this doesn't happen overnight, you then get compassionate communities, which then it's trust, dignity, and you'll have shared ownership. All right, so let's take a look at some of the work. So that's our Belgian Garden Cemetery. It's pretty horrible, right? Nobody is going there, let me tell you. So we had those columbariums put up and we were so disappointed. I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? The ones at the back there are ash cylinders, and then you've got our beautiful cultural artwork area down the back, which you can't see. So this space has now been transformed. This was a collision of emotions that came to me from behind here is Baby Lawn 8. And I had a family who was going to the paper. They were very upset that their baby was being buried in dirt and bindies, which is very fair. And then I had another conversation going with Rotary Saints. So I'm just not going to go into too much of that, but then through conversations and listening and months of work and observing, I had no budget, by the way, either. I beg other people in council for their budget, and they give it to me, I think, because I'm really annoying. So we then met our concreters out on site, and our concreters did this for me. I think I had to go to some special committee to ask for capital works budget. I was like, what is that? Why isn't it all just one budget? Like, what do we need? Cap budget and then operational budget? So they created this beautiful pathway, which actually, this is our Forever Garden space now. So I wanted to show you the before the Forever Garden and the after the Forever Garden. And then I found this at one of our depots. So you don't need a master plan. We have a master plan, by the way, for our cemetery, but you don't need to start there. You just start having conversations, finding out where are the opportunities for change and incrementally do the things. I found this at one of our depots. They were going to cut it up. I was like hell, I'm taking that. Can I put that at the cemetery? And then we've got a beautiful wind chime. So Wingsong wind chimes on the Gold Coast hand make these. And now people are using this as the bird cage, and they put their padlocks of love on there around people that they have lost, especially for those that may have moved to Townsville but their loved ones are down south. There we are. So that was our Forever Garden when we had our plantings, and that was coming onto a Mother's Day memorial. We hold 2 annual civic events per year, which is Mother's Day and Father's Day memorial. We had our community, there's Civic in Action, community actually helping us plant that out with Rotary Saints and the community there. That was the unveiling, so that's all of the signage. So you can see that's a co-delivered project between Townsville City Council, Rotary Saints Townsville and the Townsville community. So bereaved families feeding into that as well. And there's some artwork in a cemetery. Who would have thought, right? Got artwork. Yeah, and that was so very special. The Forever Garden and the purpose of this garden space, there is no burials in this space. It is purely a space of reflection, memory, care, art, and holistic meditative prompts. So, oh God, I'm not even halfway through. I'm going to have to speed through, John. All right, and then we're going to show you, this is our cultural art, well, was the cultural artwork area. So that's like bricks and pallets. So from problems, with community listening and creativity, you can create amazing, beautiful things in your spaces. So this particular project has been recognised by Reconciliation Australia as one of the top 5 in the nation in 2018 for the category of relationships with First Nations peoples. So yeah, all right, beautiful. Oh, look at my hair, that's long then. All right, moving on. All right, so frameworks, I'll be real quick, John. The frameworks that I use, obviously, now that I have my degree, so when I was doing the cultural artwork area, I didn't know, I was just naturally good at what I did, right? It was natural connections builder, which is why I used to make people in the corporate world heaps of money before I went into local government. But I now understand the frameworks of what I was using and what I currently use now, which is so incredibly helpful for me. In the room today down the back, you've got Mr. Peter Westerby. So he's one, if you want to ask him about participatory community development, go grab him. He'll kill me later. He'll be like, why are you pointing me out? Collective impact is another one. Asset-based community development, which a lot of people you've heard them talk about. Understanding what your assets are, that's not just about buildings, it's also about what people assets, what plant assets, or anything is an asset. Monitoring, evaluating and learning. So that sounds all technical, but really it's just observing, listening, writing down little things, working out where you can do better, do more, and then your trialectic partnership, which is council, community and grief together. So our challenges, I've had lots and lots. Bureaucracy versus humanity, emotional labour, internal resistance, huge, funding gaps, cultural safety and sustainability. We are really lucky now. I have the respect and the validation of our elected officials, plus also our operational leadership. Some operational leaders have tried to move compassionate communities out of our budget line, but I'm very, very lucky to say the work that's demonstrated due to partners and obviously coming down from that elected advocacy space as well, it has remained within our community development remit to deliver. And it's so important because it sits alongside our youth, our seniors, all of our general work in community development. That's how you get local government in.